chicken. I'm your guy.
Blinking.
I'll have what Joseph has.
Look, somebody's talking about you.
This is what we call the voice of God.
Popping.
Everybody just gets to focus on you.
Grab me.
Probably not the best thing for an introvert.
I'm asking for you.
Well, I like a good chicken sandwich.
Touch me. Hi, David. Comment.
Oh my God.
Like.
You're actually an identical twin.
Push.
Maybe I'll just ask Julie to talk about what it is to be an identical twin.
Pick me up.
No, you didn't.
Shouting.
Surprise! Jeremiah, just hang on a second. I just got a text.
There's an edit for your new opening, Joseph.
I feel really honored to have been here, man.
By the way, you've done a masterful job. Seriously.
It was such a joy.
Thanks, Joseph. It's an honor.
Good on you. This was a pleasure.
I mean, you are the prime example of how to pivot in this new environment.
I wish everybody gets an opportunity to interact with Joseph Jaffe and CoronaTV.
Who needs Cameo when I've got my own personal Cameo? Well, hello, everybody. Greetings from the Jaffe Sukkah. And if you guys don't know what a sukkah is, it basically, here's the story. I'll tell it to you very briefly. There was a time traveler who saw what was happening in 2020, went back into time, into ancient Egypt, and decided that we would need a temporary dwelling place that we could sit outside safely, social distance, and avoid getting the corona. And if you believe that story, you will believe anything. But I am outside. I decided a change of scenery. I wanted to do something different. And of course, as you know me, I'm never satisfied with things being safe and consistent and predictable. There is construction going on outside. There are trees being felled. There's earthquakes. There's an apocalypse. There are giant flies landing on people. You know, it's bedlam. Cats and dogs living together. You know how the draw goes. But anyway, it is an exciting day because not is it Corona crowd, the formerly known as the audience. See, even my camera did something weird because I'm outside and I'm on Wi-Fi, which you should never do, never ever do when you are doing a streaming show and breaking all the rules. But more importantly, let's celebrate the fact that it is International Global World Pizza and Beer Day, and this is called CoronaTV. And so you know what my hope is. You know that my hope is that we stop referring to corona as a virus, and we start thinking about it as a beer or as a crown, as a halo, as a guiding light. That's what we need to be thinking about, right? So a whole bunch of birthdays. Let's just run through the list. If you see your name, happy birthday to you. And I gave you little shout outs earlier on Facebook today. But have a great day, guys. And you're in for a treat. People on Facebook, people on LinkedIn, because of course I have 9 of the best. I have 9 former guests. I have 9 after show regulars. Truth be told, I have 9 members of my family that are joining me shortly, and they're all in the green room right now looking pensive, and some excited, some people saying, please don't call on me first. You know who you are. I'm looking at you right now. I see you in the back, in the background. We just ended an unbelievable week, part of my partnership with the ANA, the Masters of Marketing Week. I'm still blown away by the conversations that I had with people like Essie Bracey from Unilever, Frank Cooper from BlackRock, Manos Spanos from Danone, Ivan Pollard from General Mills, and Norm de Greve from CVS. Really, really just blown away by the caliber, by the quality of marketing leadership. And please do me a favor. Don't just go back and watch the episodes. Watch the Zoom after show. I almost feel like I shouldn't be telling you to watch that Zoom after show, right? Jan and Tom and Joey, why would we want to give away this beautiful Johari, this beautiful jewel? But seriously, blew me away this week. And in particular, I'm still thinking about yesterday's conversation with Essie. Well, next, it says this week, because I was just doing it for the newsletter, but we have Planet Fitness's Jeremy Tucker on Monday. We've got Dean Aragon from Shell on Thursday, Mark Pritchard from P&G on Friday, Brad Jakeman and Dev Patnaik, who are not actually part of the ANA speaker list, but they may as well be. Brad Jakeman, ex-Pepsi, Geoff Cottrill, just relax. It's okay. We can we can all be friends. And Dev Patnaik, who I actually connected through a connection, but he sits on the same board that John Mackey sits on, Tom, at Conscious Capitalism, the company. So we're going to be talking, I'm sure, about purpose. Let me make that screen slightly big for you. And as always, if you want to win a pass to the ANA, all you got to do is subscribe to the show. I mean, it's simple as that. Subscribe to the show. Why wouldn't you? Or to the show's newsletter. And that's how you can do it. All right. So we're about to get into our episode. But before I do, I just want to do a quick shout out, see who's watching. Well, of course, my mom's watching. But I'll let everyone coming on greet her personally. Here's what I did want to say. This week, I got a beautiful package delivered to me on Monday, and I thought that I would do a little bit of an unboxing. So this, Kuda, is your unboxing. I'm just going to show it to you right now. All right, I'm doing a quick unboxing from my buddy Kuda Biza, who is on the show. Founder of Nonbelievable, which is a mission-based cookie company. And so this is what you get. Let's see our flavors. What are our flavors? Chocolate chip cookie, oatmeal raisin cookie, peanut butter cookie. Thank you, my friend. We're going to eat them and we're going to enjoy them. And here's how you can take advantage of it, right? You can get 15% of your next purchase for every box purchased, or as you purchase Unbelievable cookies, they donate food or a meal to someone who really is hungry. So well done, buddy. You're making the world a better place. All right, so Kuda will be back on the show, but I got my cookies here. I also got another gift as well. So now you know why I do the shows, to get free gifts from my guests. But Michael Chong sent me his Uber Trends book, and this book, I mean, this is a proper book. It's unbelievable. Rude behavior. I mean, Freudian. I don't know what it is, but it's just an incredible book that talks about how trends and innovation are transforming our future. So just wanted to send him my thanks as well. And that's it from me in terms of preamble. Let's bring them on. Let's bring on the All-Stars in no particular order. Mr. Scott Monty.
Oh, my goodness. Joseph, it's a pleasure to be here. What do you want me to talk about again?
Nothing at the moment, because we're going to say hello to Jessica Joins.
Hi.
Hello. Good to be here with you.
Mr. Ted Rubin.
Hey, everybody. Excited to be here.
Joey Dumont.
Hello, everyone. Great to be here.
Carla Johnson.
Hey, hi, everybody. So happy to be in this group today.
And, of course, you've already seen him, Kuda Biza.
The Cookie Monster is here.
Mr. Tom V. Morris.
Yeah, I'm the cookie lover here. We're going to have some fun today.
Yo, G, Mr. Geoff Cottrill recuperating there. Nice to have you on the show.
Nice to be here, and a special hello to Natalie Jaffe, especially. A nice hello to you.
There you go. Look at this. And finally, last but not least, Jan Zlotnick.
Hey, Carla, stop hitting me.
It's like the Brady Bunch, right?
I'm telling you. Let me figure out where that mute button is. So Steve Garfield says, hi, Joe's mom, and Leslie's here, and she's saying hello to all of you. It's just wonderful to have this community who is on camera and off camera. But you know what? It is 2:10, which means we have 50 minutes. We have 9 of you, and each of you have 5 minutes. Well, you have a topic for 5 minutes. You have a minute to introduce it. There are no rules other than guidelines, because I know you guys are going to break the rules and make your own rules. So I'm just going to pick someone random. Actually, who wants to go first?
I'll go first.
Well, I'm going to go ladies first because she put up her hand first. Carla, you're number 1. Ted, you're number 2. Carla, I'm going to start the clock. Not that I'm actually going to be too diligent about it, but why don't you begin?
When I run over time, just Joseph, if you just go Carla, 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 Carla. While I continue to talk for another 7 or 8 minutes, I think that would be awesome.
No, I'm actually going to say thank you, Carla Johnson. Thank you, Carla Johnson. Thank you, Carla Johnson.
Repeatedly.
Thank you, Carla Johnson.
Repeatedly.
By the way, your time began already. No, I'm kidding. All right, go ahead.
I'm cutting into it. Actually, my topic for today was inspired by your show last Friday, Joseph, with Bob Leodis from the ANA, because curiosity was one of the topics that you touched on a little bit. And I think that there is so much going on in the world today in so many areas and angles that curiosity really means a lot and can help a lot of people in ways that we don't typically think of curiosity. Now, I worked on a project with John Burkhart from London a couple of years ago, and I'll show you here I'm going to scoot it in close. One of the outcomes was a book called The Fast Forward Files, which you can find on Amazon, and it's contributions by about 8 different authors. I snuck in and worked with John on this, but our chapter, here you go, there we are, in Saint-Tropez, was about curiosity and the curiosity continuum and what it actually means to consumers, to brands, and how we think about the world around us. So here's my first PowerPoint slide for the day.
Look at that.
It's high tech. So is curiosity, and I want us to rethink how we think about curiosity. And the first point that I have about curiosity is, because I think a lot of us are filled with anxiety and angst right now, is that curiosity and anxiety cannot coexist. And this is really a brain function, because anxiety is either going over the past over and over and over again, trying to judge what you did wrong, or it's worry about the future and things that haven't happened yet, but what could happen, or the uncertainty of what could happen. But curiosity is all about awareness and presence and mindfulness. So you can't be present and curious and looking into what's going on in the world around you while also judging, feeling guilty, or worrying about the future. So that's the first one. The second one is that, here I am moving through the screen, curiosity and failure cannot coexist. So many people are frozen right now because they are so afraid of doing something that's going to fail. And curiosity is all about looking into something and learning and understanding and taking a view from all sorts of different perspectives. And when you look at the work that you do, or how you even interact with other people from that kind of curious mindset, it naturally happens that you're going to have a let's pretend attitude, like, let's pretend we tried this, what could happen? Or more of a let's test it attitude. And when you look at the work that you do from that perspective, you can't have failure, you can only have learning. Now, as we look at what curiosity does bring, this is the big thing that I want people to understand, is that there's so much in curiosity that we don't give it credit for. Curiosity brings you opportunity. I'm going to move this way so you can see it. Opportunity. It brings you diversity, because the very nature of curiosity is to look at things that you're not familiar with. That's why travel is so great for people who are curious. It brings diversity in how we think about something, in who we talk to, in understanding how other people think. It's tolerance. Again, it's failure. Curiosity is going to help you understand that failure is a natural part of life and looking at it differently. It brings ideas, and I think relationships, and particularly innovation. Now, I put relationships on here because as I've watched your show almost from the beginning, Joseph, it has been amazing, the relationships that you've been able to build, because I think you were curious about what would happen if you tried the show every day. And we as the audience takeover today, I think, are a big part of the relationships that we've built. And I know some of the other people on the show, and for some of you, this is the first time I've seen you or really had a chance to talk. And I think curiosity is really important in these relationships. But the last thing I want to leave you in 5 seconds before you start calling out my name, Joseph, is that most importantly, curiosity is a transition into change. Because the more we get curious about what's going on and how things work and how people do things differently, it lowers our emotional barriers to something that's different. And there's a cartoon where a leader's asking, who wants change? And everybody raises their hand. And the next question is, who wants to change? And it's just crickets. And so that's where curiosity can really help us transition into change. And I think for all of us, especially, this is exactly what we're working our way through, is this transition into change, into, whatever's next in the next 30 days, 75 days, next year.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Thank you, Ms. Johnson.
Is that my cue to go?
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Well, you've already broken the rule by going 5 minutes when you were meant to talk for 1 minute. But here's what you gave me. You gave me that beautiful chart you showed. You gave me a new acronym. So the acronym is ODD to furry.
I think it's great. I'm certain it's great.
I'm sure one of the philosophers actually said odd to furry, but I will rework it for you. We had tea. We've had a whole bunch of things this week. Carla, I love you. And what we're going to do is we're going to go into number 2. But curiosity is a great way to start and get the ball rolling. I'm sure it's going to come back. The advantage of going first is that you create a thread that people can pick up on. So we will come back to it. Curiosity, anxiety, curiosity, and failure. I was taking notes. Mr. Ted Rubin, I think you are next. And you know what? You can do whatever the hell you want as well, because it's your show.
I'm going to try to keep it to a minute. I want to bring up a topic, and it's something that I'm truly struggling with myself. I'm glad Carla went first, because she kind of came on the high side of things, and curiosity is a great thing. But my struggle is how do you guys think about moving forward with all those you've completely lost faith in? Before this whole administration and the election coming up. Joe, I know you said to keep politics out of it, but I'm gonna try to keep this just as a general topic. I mean, can you ever see yourself working with those whose ideologies you've now seen exposed and are so vehemently opposed to? And I'm including brands in this. Like, all of us work with individuals, we work with brands, but I know myself, I can be friends with someone. I don't think I can work with these people anymore. And, and I'm not talking about the people who are your friends, who you don't agree with, who vote differently from you. I'm talking about the people who constantly share these crazy conspiracy theories, who share posts online from these phony, blogs that are made out to be journalistic media companies like the Washington Observer, the Federalist, Breitbart. To me, it's not just their ideology, but their lack of an ability to investigate and research. I mean, how can I ever trust these people to work on a project with them when I know the way their minds work and how easily they're swayed and moved? So I'd love to hear from some of you guys, if you could share.
Well, I'm gonna open it up to you guys to see what you say. But first of all, I've made progress. I've now moved it into trifody, which is better. But I'm gonna keep on evolving this. Who wants to? That's my way of just making it. It's a serious topic. It's an important one. Who wants to jump in?
Well, I think I will. I think trifody is good because Carla brought out that they're hello.
Hello.
I think Carla brought out that there are three elements.
I'm
putting you on mute, Joseph. So there are three elements that Carla brought up, and I would answer Ted that Ted. I think that a way that I would approach it is to be curious with my friends and people who have disappointed me. And the first thing I would ask them is, do you still love me? And can I still love you? And keep asking questions, because it's going to take questions for us to get past these tough times, not more answers.
Before anybody else jumps in, just to make it clear, I'm not talking about friends. I'm talking about business associates and colleagues, which to me is very different. People I love, and that's never going to change. So, and also, I'm also fortunate. People I love would never share that kind of shit.
And see, Ted, here's something interesting. It's often been said, people are always telling you who they are. Listen, there are some people that you've learned, you may have learned you just can't work with, right? But there are other people you'll be able to find you do have common values to share. You do have common ways of thinking, but when it comes to certain issues, they go off the rails. No, they're dependable on other things, but on certain issues, it's just Twilight Zone. And if you can understand that person functions really well in other things, but still it's a matter of trust, right? And once somebody has done something to break trust, that's really hard to win back. You don't want to isolate yourself in a bubble, but if you have to, if there are only sane people with you in the bubble, it's a pretty good bubble in, right? So I totally understand the worry, and I've had that same worry myself. I'm trying to listen to what people are showing me now, because a lot of people are showing things about themselves now that they ordinarily keep very hidden away and very quiet. And so it's a time for all of us to be learning. And you don't have to break relationships with people, like right away or anything. But as you think long term, you can't help but have your thinking informed by what you're learning along the way.
And but one more thing for the rest of you guys, I want to throw in that I'm happy about this, because I think it's given me, as you said, Tom, so much more insight into who people truly are. And I think a lot of us didn't know that about a lot of people before this.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I want to add something. You can choose who you want to associate yourself with. You can choose who you want to work with. We do have the choice. Many there are many entrepreneurs on this, Joey. This one's for you, on this call, on this podcast call today. But you know what? How many of us started our own businesses and we said we'll never work with companies that do X or Y or Z? And guess what? When you're desperate enough and you're starting out and you got to make payroll, you take the business. So we've always had to compromise ourselves in the past, but maybe we are at a fork in the road. And actually my first answer to you, Ted, would have been time heals all wounds and we can start again and we can rebuild. But maybe the answer is you do choose who you want to work with, because you know what? Life is short.
Yeah.
We have learned now that your work, it is a misnomer to state that you put you compartmentalize your work at work, your home at home. No, you bring your work to home, you bring your home to work. And so now maybe it will be a change. I don't know if anyone wants to disagree with me or add something else.
Well, I wanted to say, I think there's like a place for boundaries, right? So you get to choose who you want in your life. You get to choose who you want to engage with and why. I would say and there's levels of that, right? I would say the only caution in terms of this kind of crisis moment we find ourselves in is you don't need to work with these people, but I think we still have to find ways to see the humanity in others no matter what.
Right.
That's what's causing so much of the suffering. And I say no matter what, and I'm trying to do it every day right now, and it is hard because I have judgments and I have assumptions, and I'm pissed off about a lot of things.
Often,
but I know that that's the answer to the healing right now. Like, it is one planet. We are all humans. We've got to find a way, and not just even in this country, but globally, we cannot lose seeing the humanity in others. Do we have to work with everybody? Hell no.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think balance those things, right?
I think we got some great comments, and I've been putting the comments up, but I think Frank expresses it correctly. Find the common ground. Find the common ground. Look for it. There's got to be something. There's always something that connects us, that unites us. The example I always give is, you're driving down in the suburbs in the street and somebody cuts you off, and your road rage kicks in and you start to swear or extend the middle finger, and then the next thing you know, that person happens to be a parent that you're standing next to at a soccer match. So this is life, right? So this is life. All right. Susie agrees 100% with you. A lot of really good comments coming in. And Mr. Garfield says, Corona TV has introduced me to a whole range of folks that I'd love to work with. So I guess what he's saying is the people that Ted doesn't want to work with, Steve will work with them. That's fine. That's fine. All right, Mr. Geoff Cottrill, I think you're going to be next because I'm listening to what you got to say, my friend.
All right, I'm going to try to keep mine short. In March, the world changed when we were all told to stay home and be on lockdown. In May, the world changed even more with rioting in the streets, protests, Black Lives Matter becoming very important. We saw TV commercials from brands with fake empathy. We heard major corporations step up and say they were going to spend millions of dollars on X, Y, and Z. But where's the accountability? Like, how do we know this money is being used to improve the world, to make the Black Lives Matter movement mean more? It feels like there was a lot of noise and a lot of, oh yeah, I'm going to do something. But I wonder how we're going to hold corporate America accountable for changing and making this world a better place.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, I'm really glad you brought that up, because that's also, I think that's a part of what I've been talking about. But I think, you know, I've been shouting out a bit, you know, and I'm Scott, and, you know, look, I follow Scott a lot. I see a lot of what he posts, and I joked the other day that when he posts something, I was glad he posted it, because I would have gotten a lot of shit for it. But Scott has such this wonderful reputation with the halo around him that nobody jumps down his throat. So I shared Scott's instead of saying the same thing myself, and said, hey, look, but truth be told, I agree with that 100%, but we've got to shout out. We've got to be willing to say it. You know, recently I've been getting a lot of shit because I'm jumping down FedEx's throat right now because their drivers don't wear masks. Not one of them shows up at my door with a mask, whereas every single Amazon driver shows up at my door with a mask. I mean, every one of them. Mm-hmm. And FedEx, of course, is sending me corporate gobbledygook. I'm getting press this link, click here for our policies. And I'm basically like, go fuck yourself, policies. Like, have a human answer me and tell me why you can't. They even sicked an advocate on me, a clearly paid advocate, to start answering my tweets talking about the way they have different divisions.
And I muted you, Ted. You know why? I muted you because you swore and because you got a potty mouth. And this is a family show. Actually, it isn't a. Sorry, it's not a family show. I'm unmuting you again, but stop swearing.
Okay,
Don't be angry.
No, but the point I'm saying is we've got to call these people out. We've got to not be afraid of it. During the election, I got called out by people in the influencer community telling me that I was hurting their reputations by speaking about the election so much. And I wrote a blog post about it, just saying, like, how dare you guys tell me what I should use my influence for or what I can speak about. I think more of us have to speak out, especially to this topic that you just brought up, and tell brands that it's not acceptable.
Yeah. Right. I will say that, yesterday, sitting down with AC from Unilever, I mean, I was blown away by everything they were doing. This did not seem, like lip service, like this was not superficial. Just even the unpacking of Courage is Beautiful, the incredible, piece of art. I don't even know what it was, a call to, I don't even know what the description is. But what we realized specifically in that after show, Jan was there, Tom was there, was that this was just a little window into an ongoing commitment. The campaign for real beauty has a start date, but it has no end date. It isn't a campaign. And she even spoke about, I mean, I really was touched by this. She even spoke about how the people that were actually in the hospitals, filming or taking shots of these essential workers and frontline workers, they didn't even go home that night because they didn't even know what was happening. If you think about where we were in this pandemic, they were sleeping in hotels or motels, etc. So going back to what you were saying, Geoff, accountability, that you asked, how do we hold them accountable? I think the answer is we need to hold them accountable. It's not so much a how, it's just the fact that you will be held accountable right now because opacity does not work anymore.
Go ahead.
I was going to say every world religion, every major world philosophy has a few things in common. One of those things is the injunction, pay attention, pay attention. If we pay attention to how companies follow through on what they're saying right now, we can hold them accountable. But like holding people accountable in an organization, once you pass a threshold of complexity, accountability easily dies. And so it's up to us to pay attention. That age-old spiritual demand, pay attention.
Yeah, and one last thing, Joe, and this is something you pointed out, but you didn't finish on, is that we also need to give the shout outs to the companies that are doing it right. Yep. Let's not just hold accountable the ones that are doing it wrong. Let's support the companies. And that, by the way, that's the reason I threw in the whole Amazon thing, is I want to say I'm not just out here bitching. And I hope that word's okay, Joe. Is bitching okay? Okay.
Oh, only because I can.
I have one thing. I have one thing I want to share on this is watch the work that Katie Martell is doing right now, because she's working on a documentary called Pandemonium, and it's about how brands actually are pandering to all of us and doing all of this upfront lip service, and behind the scenes they aren't doing squat. And she's telling some amazing stories.
And that was the whole point to my question was, you know, when I run a business and I go to finance and I ask them to give me money to run my business, I have to give them a plan.
Yeah.
And then every 30 days, I have to sit down with them and I have to go over my plan and tell them how I'm doing with the money that they gave me.
Yeah.
What we've seen is these corporations write these massively big checks with no plan, no detail, no deliverables, and no specific achievable goals.
Yeah.
And that's my worry. My worry is all this money and all this pandering with the intent to do something. We need it to make a difference. We need the world to change.
So I don't know.
Make sure that we're making progress so that in 5 years it doesn't happen again.
I don't know, Scott. I'll come back to you in a second. I don't know if it was Tom or Jan who came up with this in the after show, but I mean, you guys are gonna this is gonna stop you in your tracks. The question with courage is beautiful. It was an idea poised or offered to AC, which was, where are they now? Let's find out where those people are that were featured in that commercial, where they are now. And guess what? Some of them may not be with us.
Yeah.
You know, and that's accountability as well. That says we follow up, we follow through, hold us accountable. And maybe, you know, to the point of, I think, Ted making the thing, which is, let's celebrate those that are doing it well. Well, the companies that do it well, and probably this is going to be very scary for them, right, Geoff? If you think about the big companies, the Cokes, the Pepsis, are the ones that actually say, here's the progress report, here's the barometer, here's how we're doing. You know, it's almost like the death of the campaign, because now everything we say and everything we do and every money we spend, we are going to report back on our progress.
Yeah.
Scott, you were going to say something.
Yeah, I think part of this, it comes from our nature of being short-term in our outlook. We're responding to crises. We're acting within the realm of a campaign. We're acting from quarter to quarter because it's what Wall Street demands. And a lot of these issues that are taken up by companies are taken up by communications, PR, and marketing. They aren't taken up as a functional shift in the business, and that comes directly from the board and the CEO. And until you have the buy-in from the very highest level of the C-suite, this becomes something of a hobby that's chased after until someone else's attention is distracted by something else, right? So it needs to be fundamentally part of how we're rethinking, structuring our businesses, who we are actually serving in business. It's not just shareholders anymore. It's been a year since the Business Roundtable made their big hoo-ha about, oh, it's got to be stakeholders, not shareholders. Well, where are we on that? Speaking of follow-up, right? I mean, this is what it has to take to shift our thinking as culture thinking within a business and within a society as well.
Yeah.
All right.
Otherwise,
So
it's just all buzzwords, right? It's all buzzwords otherwise.
Sadly.
Great conversation, and Scott, I've ordered you in the order. So Scott, and then Jessica, and then Joey. Take it away, my friend.
Jessica, I'm sorry. Listen, I think what Ted touched on there, it sparked exactly what I wanted to talk about, and that is, you know, we have, whether we're brands or we are individuals with large platforms, we have the ability to speak out. Right? To speak up and to speak out. And for a long time, we've heard the phrase, the bully pulpit. I'm sharing my screen now. Hopefully this is coming across. The bully pulpit. And I think in recent years, this is, by the way, this is from my newsletter. If you'd like to subscribe, just go to timelesstimely.com. Nice plug there. The problem with this is, in recent years, we've come to understand the bully pulpit as literally bullying someone, right? As using a platform to put the hammer down on someone's head and bring the world down on top of them. That's not what the bully pulpit means. If you follow history, if you look at Teddy Roosevelt, who actually originated the phrase, Teddy used the phrase bully all the time. Bully as in good for you, right? Bully for you. And the bully pulpit was supposed to be using a position of authority to do good in the world, to bring decency into the world, and to help affect a positive change. And I think this is exactly what we need now, whether it's with brands and what they're trying to do, or Ted, with what you were saying. You know, rather than coming down on the person, right? Why not come down on the behavior? Address the behavior and figure out a way to do it in a decent, kind, and humane way, because we still all have to share this mortal coil together. We have to figure out a way to work together. And yes, you can make your decision about whom you're going to work with and whom you're not. But the reality is, if you can treat people in a decent way, I think we saw this, going back to politics a little bit, we saw this in the presidential debate. Joe Biden was so kind and decent, even though he didn't have to be. His son was raked over the coals. And the worst thing he did was tell Trump to shut up, man, or quit yapping. I mean, if I were up there, I don't know that I could have had that level of restraint that he showed. And I think we all need to start showing that.
Yeah. Amen.
Amen. Yep.
Yeah.
Frank is exactly right. I actually used that quote in a Medium piece last week from Gandhi.
And you might have actually shut up everyone in their tracks and earned us back 2.5 minutes.
No one can think of anything decent to say.
but I like this idea of how you have framed the concept of bully for you, which actually, again, if this is a show about hope, positivity, optimism, and if there's time over a little bit of marketing, a big common theme this week has been the power of scale. I mean, we've seen it, with incredible companies like Nunbelievable at a startup level, but then we heard from Manos and what they're doing with Too Good and how they're able to, in a way, it's, copy and imitate the startups, which is fine. They've got the scale, they can actually make a difference. That is, bully for them using a different kind of a bully pulpit because they're using scale. And they're not forcing out the little guy. What they're doing is they're adding to a symphony as opposed to a cacophony. So bully for you, Scott Monty.
No, and Scott, I love that, because it's not just about calling people out. It's about listening to what the response is. It's kind of why I talked about, engage, have somebody come back. It's not about just saying you're wrong. It's about being able to have a conversation and understand why are you doing what you're doing. And I just think that's what we really have to strive to do with, even in the way we call people out, like, please come out and let's have a conversation.
And I think that the ability to have that conversation, even though we have different views, has to come from a place of looking to understand and still build unity, because there's lots of people who I don't agree with their opinions on Facebook, but I also see a lot of people just tearing down because an opinion is different. And that doesn't help anyone. If we look at how do we seek to understand and figure out the root cause of, or like the root reasoning of what they believe, I think that can help us in a lot of ways create a unity that's not there right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you did see the comment. Susie said Scott should be the debate moderator. So we're going to practice, Scott. I need you to say thank you. I need you to say no. Thank you, Carla Johnson. Thank you, Carla Johnson.
17 times, Scott. 17 times.
And by the way, Carla, I continue to make progress. It's now trifoid.
Oh, I love that.
So it's kind of like a tricorder or a trifold. You're welcome. I will get us there. I will get us there. I love acronyms. You know that I get paid by the acronym as a consultant. So, all right. So let me see if I move Jessica there and then I do that. There we go. I'm getting better at it. Jessica, you have the floor.
Okay. So everyone, there is a saying that is the change that will save the world is a personal one, meaning that each one of us is responsible for exploring our part, okay? And in doing the inner work that needs to be done to heal, more than we do focusing on what others are doing or not doing, focusing on what people are doing right or wrong. So as has been talked about, we're in a global crisis on multiple fronts, whether it's climate change, whether it's systematic racism, the pandemic that won't go away, a political system that's broken, we are in trouble and we all have work to do. But what I see most is people focusing on what others are doing or not doing instead of looking at their part. And we all have a part to play in this. We all have a part. And the only way we're going to fix this is through personal reflection and doing the inner work of healing. So my question topic, and it's really to each of the panelists, what are you doing to acknowledge and heal your part against any of the multiple crises that we find ourselves in this moment?
I'll jump in first if you want. I'm educating. I've been spending a lot of my time during the pandemic reading a lot more than I ever had time to before. And I was also fortunately introduced to, I was finally convinced to get on Audible, which it just makes my ability to absorb and get through content a lot faster. And I've been mostly focusing on the Black Lives Matter movement and understanding white privilege, white supremacy, racism, because, every one of us here has been programmed, including Kuda, in a certain way, in a different way than the rest of us. And what I'm trying to understand, but more importantly for myself, is that I'm sharing it. Every day I start a new book, I share it online, I share it with my audience, I go beyond that, I text it to friends, I use my one-on-one personal relationships to try to get friends of mine who say to me, oh, no, I'm not racist, or I don't have white privilege, or whatever it happens to be, to say, look, this is me talking to you personally. Read this book. I think it might give you some insight. So that's the way I'm progressing with my side of it in that area. I haven't been able to figure out a great way to do that on the direct political front, but hopefully I will at some point.
Joe, we want to hear from you. Can I do that?
What did you say?
Yeah,
By the way, Frank has just made Trifoid a hashtag on Twitter. And I just want to say, Joey, you're coming in next, but Ward said, to your point, Jessica, if you know neither the enemy nor yourself, you will succumb in every battle. Sun Tzu himself, and Leslie said, Jessica, really like your question. We all need to learn how to do empathetic listening. So let's all listen empathically to Mr. Joe Dumont. Joey, you're responding to Jessica. This is not your time.
Correct. So I will answer this in my actual minute. I'll talk to what I'm doing specifically around this healing, because it has to do with my topic. But to kind of follow through with Ted, I knew that we had racism issues in our country. As a history buff, I got a little bit of understanding. Then I read Eddie Glaude Jr.'s book, Begin Again. Mm-hmm. And it was one of the most powerful books I've ever read. It was a James Baldwin ode, basically. And then I started reading James Baldwin. And to your point, I am now learning more about BLM and why it exists and why there is so much, I think, righteous anger. There's just so many. They call it the American lie. And Eddie does a fantastic job of featuring James Baldwin's beauty and his poetry and his writings and his many books. And I've read 4 or 5 of those in the last month. And it's staggering. It's brilliant, and it's sad, and it's awful. And we as a culture have not embraced this. You mentioned systemic racism, and it's there. It's not a debate among anyone who's ever read anything. In any one of these books, you read one of them. And I think that's a big piece of it. So I'm working on myself, my introspection, because I have weaknesses. I did not know what I didn't know. And as I continue to dive into racism specifically, as someone with white privilege and lives in a very wonderful, comfortable life, it's shocking.
And Joey, history too, right? I mean, look, I think we're all pretty well educated here. At least I thought I was. And then the things I've realized that I've been misinformed about for so long are staggering to me, even with an Ivy League education and, probably some of the similar history learnings that we've done at the same time. Just, it's amazing to me.
Yeah. I live in a town that had the only successful coup in the history of our country. We had the most flourishing Black community in the nation, and the whites rose up in revolution against it at the end of the 19th century. And I had to live in this town for 25 years before I even heard about it.
Right. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
But it's history's written by the winners, and it's also taught by the winners. So the history that we have is white male history. That's what the the textbooks for, and that's what we know, and that's what we've been taught is real and legitimate history. Yeah. And I have a master's in history, and so I teach our kids a different kind of history as they grow up. And it's very interesting. Our daughter, when she was probably in about 2nd or 3rd grade, when the history lesson came about who discovered America, her input was a lot different than it was Christopher Columbus. And those aren't conversations that a lot of teachers are willing to have. No. So that's the history that's been written and it's been taught. And unless we're all willing to learn what history actually was and what happened and who was involved, then the history that we have is the history that we'll keep.
And Carla, a lot of the teachers that are willing to talk about it are being discouraged by their administrations.
It's too controversial and discouraged by parents who don't want their children to be taught these things. It's just too controversial.
And similarly with the environment. I mean, some of the same things can be said about that. There are schools where, no, you can't talk about this.
Right.
So I don't know if this is revisionist history, but now I'm quoting you as having written histories written by the winners.
Actually, somebody else way smarter than me. I just said that first. I'll just be clear.
Yeah, but you're the person who came up with Odefert. So.
Odefert. It sounds a little French. Odefert.
I like it.
It's a cologne for curiosity.
We'll see which hashtag.
Hold on.
It can compete with the fly.
Carla, is that Odefert?
Yes. Odeur de Odefert.
Part of one of the things that concerns me, being a student of history myself, I was a classics major and have found more use for my education in these later years than I did straight out of school. Look, when we all grew up in a certain time, we shared common cultural experiences. We knew what we were watching on Saturday mornings. We knew what we were watching after prime time. It was usually the Johnny Carson show. And I'm speaking obviously of America right now. We had a collective culture. And now I fear not only for all of these, alternative takes on history, the old and the new, and really history is about learning new things about our past all the time. But at the same time, I look at my kids and they go, hey, have you heard of blah, blah, blah on YouTube? And I'm like, there are 15 million YouTube influencers out there, let alone TikTok and Snapchat and Instagram. We're having a scattershot approach to culture now. And I fear that there's going to be very little shared culture in the future for us to talk about or for our kids to talk about. How do we begin to address that and make sure that we are seeing the same things, we are experiencing things that we still have in common and can call back to some of those central tenets?
I for one, don't want to go back to the Johnny Carson days. I don't want a collective culture. I want this culture. I recognize that it's messy. It sucks at times. That's probably because our technology hasn't caught up to it, or we haven't caught up to the technologies as humans, and we have to work through it. And I think it's just a rough period where we feel this angst. I'd rather keep moving forward and keep listening and acknowledge that I don't get it yet.
I wanted we're gonna move on to Joey, but I just want to say that first of all, we'll go a little bit long today. That's okay. This is a great conversation, but there's something that I want to say, and I. As the host of Corona TV and someone who has been here every single episode, there is something so powerful about talking, about just being able to talk, to just let the words come out. And sometimes you mix them up and sometimes you say the wrong thing and sometimes you upset people. But rather than just keep them bottled up inside where they can become they can rot you from the inside out. The ability to communicate and to connect and to disagree and sometimes agree to disagree. But it's the ability for us to not be afraid to just say what's on our mind and not get our head bitten off. And that's why, it does come all the way back to the very first topic about the anxiety that comes with curiosity, which cannot coexist, right, Carla?
That's right.
The ability. You can't have angst about being able to ask questions and seek out answers and be prepared to fail at, quite frankly, sometimes asking the wrong question or coming up with the wrong answer. So all of this stuff is very helpful and healthy and cathartic. And over to you, Joey.
Well, Jessica, directly to you. So what am I doing? And I love that it was kind of a softball for me. For those of you who don't know, I wrote a book about male arrogance. And Tom, you posted an article yesterday by Frank Bruni. And he said, I'm sure of someone's strength when they show me their weakness. I'm most confident in someone's smarts when he has confessed all that he doesn't know. And I think that what I want to throw out to the group here is, why does male arrogance work? Why has it worked historically? Why is it still working? And I mean that both on the political front as well as our business. So a lot of businesses, I have a lot of very strong female friends in C-suite positions, and Jessica and I have talked about this at length, who still deal with unbelievable male arrogance, who have gotten their positions because of that. Not necessarily because of anything to do with the day-to-day activity of their acumen, but because they rose to the top through confidence or unbridled charisma, or, you know, and that's a topic that I just don't understand. And what I've done on that front, Jessica, for me, is that I've penned a 70,000 word manuscript about my insecurities, why I was arrogant, how arrogance actually helped me, both with female attention and big paychecks, and it needs to be brought to the fore. And a young woman named Liz Plank wrote a fantastic book, For the Love of Men, and she did so to understand the Me Too movement. And I've read that book twice in its entirety, and I go back and I read over my highlights. She said in her author's note, when is a man going to write a manifesto about what it means for a man moving forward? Mm. And I was about 2 years into the writing when this happened. And this is a huge discussion in our topic, not just because of strong men like Duarte and Putin and Belisaro and Trump. This is not just America. This is global issues. And it absolutely staggers me at an intellectual front that we still deal with this toxic masculinity. Terrible word. I hate that word. We deal with dickhead males. Okay? Sorry, Joe. So how is it?
Thank you, Joe.
How is it that we continue to allow this? Let's just put that out there.
Well, I think I want to go back to Scott's point about culture, because I think that's where a tremendous amount of this comes from, is that even though, you know, some of us may not like it and want to fight against it, it's what we're familiar with. And I think that's a big part of culture. And there's a lot of people who find comfort in the familiarity of that culture. And there's jillions of research studies about, you can take a profile of a man and a woman and about their leadership styles and everything being exactly the same. Change the name to be a man, they're seen as strong, competent, you know, a true leader. You change the name to one of a woman and she's self-serving, demeaning, a witch with a capital B, so I don't get, you know, muted here. You know, it's all very negative. And so it's really, our culture is about, that's who we see and herald and hold up. But if you look at the countries who are the most successful with their response to COVID, they are led by women. And
yes,
women who are empathetic, they turn to science. They don't have the ego and the arrogance to believe that they have all of the answers. And it's important to start to look at women like this, as this is what we hold up as the bar for leadership. I mean, I don't remember which one of us said it about how Joe Biden, I don't know how he kept his cool during the debate.
Scott,
but I look at the difference in how people responded to Kamala Harris during, you know, the debate with Pence. And the people who are so pro-Trump, who I see on social media, we're talking about her arrogance and subness and all of these things. And I tell you, I do not know how that woman kept her cool, because every woman who has ever been in a meeting knows what it's like to be condescended to and talked over and things like that and ignored. And she was so good at how she handled it. Now, instead of looking at women who handle situations like that as smug and arrogant and condescending, why don't we start to look at, well, that's exactly how men handle it. How am I, back to Jessica's point, how am I learning to look at my behavior and how I look at this differently, how I should be?
You know, Carla, I think it goes way beyond. I just want to say one quick thing. I think it goes way beyond culture. I think it's programming. I think it's intended programming. This is a plan. This isn't just culture. This is the way this whole thing was planned out, and it continues to go. And every time it tries to get steered back, I don't think it's an attempt to stay with the culture. I think it's an attempt to stay on the road and with the programming.
I think
Jessica,
also
what do you
we
think?
need to look at a redefinition and a re-understanding of what it means to be powerful. And I think there's a huge misperception that power is finite and something that needs to be competed for and won, right? And so back on mine, looking at my part, you know, I try to look at the example I give and how I'm holding power as a woman. At the same time, I also look at my tendency and having male issues of my own, a behavior that I'm rewarding, right? And like, that's how I can look at my part in that, because I have been conditioned in certain ways as well and have had to do a lot of work on that. So I think it really comes down to redefining what we think power is and thoughts we have about power, and that it's actually infinite. It's not finite.
Yeah, and there's a whole lot of people in power now who have a ton to lose by changing this dynamic. They have income, they have bonuses, they have houses, boats, you know, you name it. And so that arrogance serves them.
Yeah, and that's kind of my biggest, you know, concern is that, you know, it is up to, and that's what Liz Plank did talk about, is it's up to guys like me who have benefited by being arrogant. And obviously I can admit it now, but it has a lot to do with my insecurities. So my insecurities were rampant. And so how did I cover them up? It was with a persona, which as you start to shed a persona, I'm in my 50s now, and I just don't care anymore about most of the stuff I cared about when I was younger. And it's so liberating, right? It's like people are saying, well, what would you going to do this? Would you get, because I'm vain, would you ever get plastic surgery? I'm like, oh my God, no. Like, I can't really get that concerned anymore about wrinkles. It just doesn't matter, right? It's am I at peace? Am I finding peace in my life? Am I helping other people? And everyone's insecure. And I think that arrogance, if we can recognize it for how insecure you really are. We have someone in the White House who's the most insecure human being I've ever witnessed in real time. This isn't an attack on anything he's done, just him as a human being who is responded to by 50 million people in our culture as a strong man. I mean, he actually posted himself with Rocky Balboa, and people are like, yay, this is the guy. And all my friends, and I have so many of them from my high school and my upbringing that are big Trump fans, that say he's the strongest man in the world. This man has fish soft hands. He's never touched anything. He's never been in a fight. He's never held a job. He's never applied for a job. He's never run a company. He's done nothing strong. And we look at this and say, oh my God, he's strength. And then the same thing, the junta that is propping him up. All these weak, horribly insecure, pathetic men are propping him up. And it's like, how do we look at this as a culture and think this is okay?
So Joey,
a big part of the problem I'm having. Thank you.
I have to say that I really love the frame or the reframe from a masculine and this idea of, let me quote you, dickhead male syndrome, DMS, trifoid DMS, as opposed to, but I think it's really important to recognize, sometimes you just have to take a step back. And I'll never forget the interview with Murray Nossel when he said, when we were attacked on 9/11, because Murray was on the show on 9/11, and he said, what did we do? We went to war and we came up with a narrative of weapons of mass, mass destruction. And he said, but nobody stopped and asked why. Why did they attack us? And I think we have to take a step back and say, why do we have a party that is represented for the most part, almost exclusively by white males? We have to just take a step back and go, wait a second. It's the same thing like a board of a company. You've got to be able to say, if you are a board of a company that serves diverse people, black, white, yellow, thin, fat, male, female, old, young, should the board not mirror the people they serve? But anyway, listen, it's 3:00. That's all the time we have for. Thank you guys for watching.
Thank you for watching.
I'm just kidding. We're going to go. It's my show. I can do whatever the hell I want. Wow. I would never. Kuda's like, come on. Kuda's going to burst.
I was about to call the Black Lives Matter movement. You guys need to look at this group, you know.
Okay, that might be the comment, the comment of the day. But I just want to say one thing before we hand over to Kuda. Wait, Joey wrote a book? This is the first I'm hearing of it, and
at least I don't have it punched behind me. So
yeah. And I've got a sukkah behind me. And second of all, I just want to say that anyone who watches the show, I think the record for the word "fuck" in the show was about 8 or 9. So you know that you can say whatever you want to do whatever you want, but I do have the right to play with you, and I am a mischievous son of a you know what. My mom's watching. I can't go there. But the comment of the day for me, and then it was Kuda's. And from people watching, I have to say, happiest guy in the world, because where is that comment if I can find it? Ward says, I deserve an Emmy. Now you finally understand the narcissism that the mission, the plan, the grand vision is to finally win the Emmy. Okay, I'll shut up. Kuda, you're up, my friend.
So going into this, right, I didn't know what to expect. First time here. But Carla, when you first started talking, I really resonated with kind of like your message, curiosity, because in my book, The Spear Method, I actually talk about how curiosity did not kill the cat, but in fact, it awakened the lion in me, because it was out of curiosity that I actually found my purpose in life. And I've been following that purpose ever since. And, you know, I think it's super important for everybody to have curiosity. And I think it really applies to what we're talking about right now. Like, let's be curious about the politics. I love, Joe, what you've just said around, you know, asking why, you know, were we attacked, or like, why is this party a certain way? Growing up in Zimbabwe and then having come here, obviously, you know, there's a whole history around, you know, colonialism that I was, exposed to. And one of the strategies that the colonial powers would use was called divide and conquer. So before the colonialists came in, there were no borders in Africa. So there was like no border to say like, this is South Africa, this is Zimbabwe, this is Nigeria, this is Ghana and whatnot, right? Those were created by, you know, the Europeans when they came in. But they were very smart in how they created the borders. They made sure that within each of the countries that they would put a border around, there were 2 main tribes. So what would happen was that the 2 tribes would focus on each other and not on the common enemy. Same thing if you look into what happened in India and Pakistan, right? 2 main tribes, so they're not focused on England, they're more focused on, you know, we're better than this tribe, because you're no focused on that level. Now, the question is it what's happening here? Republican, Democrat, 2 main tribes. I don't know. There's something for us to be curious about and really think about, you know, what's at play here. But I want to shift my conversation a little bit to something a little bit more positive, right? And I heard a quote this week that really made me think, which was that as human beings, right, we do not have a limit to 2 things. Number 1, our imagination, and number 2, our determination. So let's imagine that beautiful life we want to live, but let's be determined in really pursuing that and seeing it manifest within our lives. You know, a conversation was brought up about, you know, Black Lives Matter and the whole movement. I experienced it. I lived in suburban New Jersey, and I was pulled over by a cop, you know, for no reason. I was driving the speed limit, but it was because of the area that I was driving in, and because I was Black, he pulls me over. And when he comes over to the window, the question he asked me is like, I just want to see if you live in this neighborhood. Really? There's now curfews, and, you know, people can be in certain areas. And he was like, yeah, I really want to see your driver's license to see your address. In that moment, I could have reacted, you know, in a very bad way, but, you know, you know how these things would end. So I give him my driver's license, and he does see that I live in this neighborhood. And he was just like, sorry, you can go now, you're good. But it's really kind of like, how do you deal with that, right? So I do imagine a beautiful, future state, and I'm determined to take my own actions, like in that moment, to really make sure, like, okay, I act in the right way so that I can continue pushing for that destiny that I want to see. But it's really going to take a lot of determination, because for me to go through what I experienced and really react in a calm way, it took a lot. And it leads me to my final thought, which is actually a quote that I remixed, right? There's a popular quote that says, the two most important days in life are the day you're born and the day you find out why. My remixed version is that there are actually 3 important days in life. The day you are born, the day you found out why, but every single day you act on your why. We have a lot of people out there who are born, they find out why, but they don't act on their why. So I think we need to take a hard look at ourselves every single morning and ask ourselves, what's my why? And then as you go out to tackle your day, go out there with that unlimited determination to make sure that why that you were born for, you go out there and you live it through 110%. And mic drop.
Yeah.
If
Bravos.
If I could go back in time and write the soliloquy for today, the soliloquy would be called Reaction. And we heard a quote earlier from someone, I don't know if it was Tom or Scott. By the way, I love the fact that Scott is actually in the audience quoting, commenting, even though he's actually on the show. I love that. So you can walk and chew gum at the same time. But there's this idea of people revealing themselves to you. But another thing is how you react. And we spoke about, Joe Biden's son being insulted. You just don't go there, right? You just don't go there. Or you being pulled over, Kuda. I think this is a moment in time where we choose how we react. Not how we act, but how we react, how we respond. And our ability to hold back and find that inner strength is ultimately what will give us the strength to move forward. And it seems like a bunch of common, when you are insulted, when your fiber, your moral code, your humanity is insulted, it's almost a lose-lose situation. It's one of those times you have no choice but to just smile and wait for the fly to land. No, but that seems like a very interesting common thread there. And so I just wanted to, kind of pause that as well. All right. So bravo, Kuda is the message.
Thank you, Leslie.
Oh, and also, I guess that's you, Scott. You're also tweeting a Fox News. You are a multitasker. I caught you red-handed. All right. So this is a perfect time to hand over to a faceless Jan Zlotnick. But maybe what we'll do is, while he's trying to figure out his Wi-Fi, by the way, we're doing a GoFundMe page for Jan's Wi-Fi connection. I've had it, really. I've sat through 120 episodes and I'm done with it. Tom will give you eighth place. How many in a baseball? How many bat in a baseball team? Is it 8 or 9? 9, I think.
9.
All right. So
I'm number 9.
Joe.
I want to be.
Have you not?
No, I do. I support it. I just listen. Do you know what I'm doing in the background here? Taking notes, muting, unmuting. Tom, go for it.
No, I don't get to go last. I'm going to go. Right. I guess Jan's not with us yet. So I'm like this guy.
I mean, by the way, was he ever? Okay.
He looked good. He looked like the latest guy playing King Lear. I mean, I love what he's wearing today. I want to see the blue tint again.
All right. You can be the anchor. Jan, are you back with us?
I am, but I don't know if I want to be.
Well, I'm gonna give you 10 seconds to decide if you want to go 8th or 9th.
Go ahead. Go ahead. I want him to go now.
I would like Tom to go first. Thank you.
No, I really want Jan to go first.
Tom wants to anchor.
I would like to do. Can we do rock paper scissors in
Wait,
a
we both
StreamYard?
We both heard Joey, and so nobody wants to go first now between the two of us. We're humble. We're not arrogant.
Anyway, this has been
males,
episode.
both of us.
Hey,
This
listen,
has been-
I
this
gotta
has
be off
been
by
episode-
3:30, so let's get this done. Let's
Yeah.
go, Jan.
This has been episode 3 and the last episode ever of Corona Community.
Thank you for watching.
All right.
At least he doesn't have a taser. I mean,
All right,
you
let's
know,
go.
Yet.
worse.
Yet.
Yes,
Call
Carla.
a kid
Yeah.
taser gun. You know. Go ahead, Jan.
Okay, so I want to ask everyone to just give me a 3-word, maybe 3 to 5 word answer. That's it, including you, Ted. That's it. Just
Right.
a 3 to 5 word answer.
Especially Ted.
You can't stop. You can't stop yourself, Joseph. So here's the question, and you'll see why it relates. Tell me what a brand position is in 3 to 5 or 6 words. Go ahead. Kuda, you want to start?
Sure. It's how you position your brand in the marketplace.
Okay.
I'll go. It's a stance on values.
What you stand for.
It's a promise.
It's a promise made and a promise kept.
Yes.
It's the image that results from all those things.
Your value to consumers.
Your authentic journey.
Am I the only one left? Attitude, perspective, mindset.
Yeah, I love them all. And the reason I ask is that I'd now like to have an open discussion with the time remaining of, is brand position a CMO marketing thing, or is it a CEO business thing?
Yes.
And I ask this because it relates to institutionalizing the good that we think we're about to be responsible for in a woke CMO, a woke CEO's world. So I ask again for discussion. Anybody can start it. It's open. Is brand position a CMO marketing thing or a CEO business thing?
It's got to be both. If you can, I don't know. I think it's got to be those, and I think you got to throw in the technology side these days to it as well.
I will direct you. I will direct you to 2 people who I'll call on. Geoff Cottrill, who's worked at some of the largest, most loved brands, and has been there. Scott, who was at Ford, and I'll just mention 2 points from my side. One is I looked at AC's title yesterday. She's the COO, not the CMO. But she also has brand responsibility. The guy who I have on the show, Dean Aragon. I keep wanting to call him Aragon. His title is CEO of Shell Brands International and VP of Brand. But ultimately, the real message is, if you are marketing, you need to be empowered to be able to affect change. Otherwise, you are nothing more than just a toothless, dog. So, Geoff and Scott, I'd love to hear your responses.
Scott, go ahead.
I was just going to say, Geoff, go ahead. So, look,
My work is done here.
It comes,
that means Ted's going to jump in, right?
Yeah. Well, we better hurry up. I think it comes back to the discussion we had before about broader business culture and purpose. And yes, it's the CMO's job for the expression of the brand promise, the brand positioning. But ultimately, it needs to be something that is sought after by the entire organization, not just the CEO. Right? The CEO needs to make sure that it's something that's part of the vision for where the company is going, that it's part of the strategy. And if that's understood, then it becomes something in internal communications. It becomes part of product development. It becomes part of customer service. It becomes part of legal and IT and HR. And every part of the organization will feel it. If it's not done that way, then it's simply within the realm of the CMO, who happens to be changing over every 18 to 36 months anyway. And does it really have any meaning and lasting effect that way?
Yeah, I would agree. Listen, I grew up at P&G, and I thought, brand position and brand purpose belonged to marketing. And then I went to Coke for the first time, and I thought the same thing. And then I got to Starbucks, and I met Howard Schultz.
Yeah.
And I realized the difference between that company, at least at that time, and the companies that I had worked at before. He, at the very top, was the soul of the purpose of that company. And my job was then to help bring that to life. But it was all of our jobs. And I would argue that if you have a CEO that's just a manager, managing the levers of the business with no conviction and no vision and no passion, that you'll wind up getting mediocre results for your business. That it has to start at the top, and it has to ultimately be everybody's responsibility. We got Converse going from dead in the water to rolling and growing and turn it into the biggest sneaker in the world by having a conviction and believing it and not letting anyone in who couldn't buy into the conviction and what we were trying to do. So I think if the CEO doesn't have it, then that's a question mark about whether or not you should actually.
I agree.
All right. Jan, did you get what you wanted from that? Because you are a deeply, deeply thoughtful, considerate man, and I know you've changed topics and you came up with quotes. I'm trying to find your quotes now.
You don't need the quotes. You don't need the quotes.
You know what? You're right. No, yeah. I was checking.
Yeah, so I'll just say thank you for that. Great, and we all know we could speak more about it. The way I think this relates is, and going back to curiosity and going back to Essie yesterday from Unilever and the Dove examples, is that we as marketers have this responsibility in this woke time to make a decision about not working. I think for CEOs or even CMOs with or for who don't get this, and that is tough. Joseph's right. How do you do that in a time when you need to put bread on the table? It's going to be harder, especially for younger people. But life is too short, and this woke moment is too big for us not to say, look, this isn't brand positioning for another marketing campaign. It is for the business. And there are precedents for this making money for your business. But the business has to be infrastructurally changed to meet this moment and do good. And if you're not in, I'm not in. And we have examples that are making money. It's been on this show. CBS said no to tobacco many years ago and lost $2 billion, or took a risk of $2 billion. Dove took the risk many years ago and continues that with Unilever in saying, this is what beauty is, not that. And it can be done. And it takes courage, not just not just customer centricity. Everybody's going to be jumping on customer and being human, human at the center. It needs more than that. It needs courage centricity. And I see that in this conversation. Thank you.
And by the way, they didn't possibly walk away from it. They walked away from it because they knew what revenue they got from it year on year on year. They walked away from it, and they had to replace it, and the stock price rewarded them a couple of years later. All right, so Tom, you've got 14 seconds to do everything. Can you do it? Is the question.
You know me. I never need more than it. Okay, well,
away from it. They walked away from it.
I'm like this guy with a band who's getting ready to play in a bar, and before you can even get started, a guy in the back of the crowd yells out a request, and you turn and look and realize it's the guy who owns the bar. In my case, it was Joseph. I had my set list already, and Joseph said, "Oh, talk about confusion." And so I said, "Okay, yeah, I'm a philosopher. I'll talk about anything." This year has probably been the most confusing year most of us have ever lived through, right? I mean, professionally, personally, politically, socially. And not a lot of people are really comfortable with confusion. But I've been reflecting over the last few days that clarity is often found on the other side of confusion. We have to wrestle with the tangle before we find the thread that we really need. And I mentioned, I think in the after show the other day, the ancient philosophers had an interesting perspective. They said hardly anything in this world is intrinsically good or intrinsically bad. The value of most things consists in how we use them, how they function for us. So with that in mind, confusion can sometimes be a very positive thing. It's something we have to go through in new circumstances to find the thread that's going to take us someplace really great. Somebody the other day, we had a session about questions. And too many of us think of questions as simple transactions. I give you a question, you give me an answer, right? It's that simple, loop closed. But the best questions don't just elicit information, they elicit transformation. The best questions will send us on a journey, even if it seems to be a confusing journey at first, right? I've mentioned in the after show many times, I've been reading the Iliad and the Odyssey over and over and over again the past a year or two. And my translation that I like the most of the Odyssey is 500 pages long. Well, you go it's supposed to be a book about Odysseus trying to get home after the Trojan War. But the first 150 pages, you don't even hear about Odysseus. You hear about his home and his son Telemachus and his wife he left behind, Penelope. And you're thinking, why am I reading all this stuff about Telemachus? This is supposed to be about Odysseus. Telemachus, his dad has been gone 10 years, and he wants to know if his father is still alive or not. And so he asks the goddess Athena, who knows the answer to the question. And rather than her saying, yeah, Telemachus, he's alive, she says, well, I think you need to go see King so-and-so and ask him about it because he may know. She sends him on this huge adventure that takes us 150 pages to read because she knows that Telemachus doesn't need information. He needs transformation. He needs from being a fatherless young man, late teen, to being a worthy partner for his warrior father. When he comes back, that's Scott's holding up my favorite translation by Fagles. She knows that Telemachus needs to grow into something that he needs to become. I mean, it's an interesting thing. Jean-Paul Sartre, the French philosopher, once said of boredom, it's simultaneously having too much and too little. And if you want to ponder that later, you'll discover some really deep insight there. And as a matter of fact, some stuff Scott said earlier and Jan said about culture, whether it's unified or whether it's diverse, interestingly, deep truth hides behind apparent contradiction all the time in human life, right? And sometimes it's not an either or, but it's a both and. It's like, do we want freedom or do we want order? Well, the right kind of freedom demands order. The right kind of order demands freedom. I mean, you get behind the apparent contradictions, right? And so boredom, too much and too little. I've come to think that confusion may always be about a combination of too much and too little. Too much information, too little knowledge, too much knowledge, too little understanding, too much understanding without the wisdom to put it all together, too much complexity on the periphery without enough grasp, too little grasp of the essential core of what's going on. You can play with that in a lot of ways. But my end result is to say, don't fear confusion. In fact, when you find it coming upon you, embrace it, wrestle with it. Take a deep breath, be calm, because you may be on the brink of an amazing new adventure.
I will say, Tom, that jumping in here, wrestle with the tangle. Love wrestle with the tangle because especially when we think about red threads and common threads, that's beautiful. You the other day in the after show spoke about how boredom is also the result of too much or too little. So isn't that interesting? We started off today, with Carla talking about curiosity and the connection with anxiety and failure. We end up thinking about the relationship between confusion and boredom. And I have to tell you, I've actually I had a little epiphany, which is I've got a new business idea for you, Tom.
Good. I need some kind of business idea.
It's a streaming show with GoPros, and it's called Philosophers Taking Request Eating Cookies. So
I'm in. That's the best elevator pitch I ever heard. There are crumbs on the floor already.
Eating unbelievable cookies, no less. Well, listen. That was great. We only lost Scott Monty, so he clearly did not like what you had to say, and he was like, "I'm out."
I'll send him cookies.
But listen, it's 3:26, and does anyone want to quickly? We could take this to the after show for a few minutes, just in case anybody else wants to join us and continue the conversation. But I won't cut you off. If anybody wants to respond to Tom quickly, you can. And we'll take that as a mic drop moment from Mr. Tom Morris. All right, I'm going to give you guys each an opportunity just to say whatever you want to say. Ted, you can swear. Jan, you can ask us another question again with 3 words. Carla, you can show us another card. It's all good on CoronaCommunity. But if you guys want to just say a final word, I'll drop you guys one by one, and then we'll go over to the Zoom after show.
Drop me first. Relationships rule the world. I'm so honored. It's a great joy to know you guys. Thanks for being a part of my life. I hope this goes on for a long time to come.
I got to run, so let me just jump in here. Guys, I say this all the time. A network gives you reach, and we all have networks, but community is what gives you power. Community is what has taken me through my whole life and brought me through all my ups and downs and all my reinventions. This community is fabulous. I want to thank Joe for it, and I'll look forward to seeing you guys on the other side. I got to run. Thank you so much for including me in this, Joe. It means a lot.
Anytime.
I'll go next. Shosholoza. Joe will get that one.
Shosholoza. I can see.
Shosholoza. But anyway, really kind of like resonating around the whole idea of network. I honestly believe that your network is your net worth. So thank you so much, guys, for being added to my network now, and Joe for facilitating this and for inviting me. And if you're ever in need of a delicious cookie, I think now you know where to find them. So thank you so much for the support, and we're feeding people one cookie at a time. And have a wonderful weekend, guys, and can't wait to connect with you guys separately.
I'll go next because I have to hop off too. This was amazing to have this kind of community conversation, and not that we all agreed on everything, but I think to push what it is that we believe in, to make us all think differently and think more. Thank you, Joseph. This was amazing. I love being a part of your community and the community that you built, especially because it focuses on hope and optimism.
Yeah, it was a pleasure. Thank you, Carla.
Right. I'd love to jump in. It was just occurring to me as I looked at everybody's faces on the screen that if we were the leadership team of a company, we would be a force to be reckoned with the amount of intellect. It just occurred to me, like, I don't know why we don't figure something out together. I think it would be really remarkable.
Yeah, well said. Well, as long Yoji, as long as you're a part of it, I'll be on your team any day. All right, who wants to go next?
I will go. Joe, you're amazing. Everything you've built is incredible. I love everything that you're doing, and it was so great to be with all of you today. And I just say, focus on looking at yourself more than you are looking at others. That's all I got for now.
Love you, Jessica. Well, I'll just jump in there.
You might as well go.
Yeah, no, same thing. It was fantastic, Joseph. Thanks for letting me be a part of this twice now. It's an honor to be here. And Scott, it's great to see you more often. And Jan, I get to see you quite often. So again, this is my community. It's been, and so I'm over 100 shows now. And so I'm very happy I've been part of that. And thanks again for creating this, Joseph. It's been great.
Happy you've been a part of it too. I know what you're doing, Jan. You just want maximum screen time, so you're keeping quiet. And you too, Scott. I know you guys. You're so transparent.
I'm trying not to interrupt, and Scott has brilliant ideas. So, okay, I'll go. I just, if it's appropriate and correct, and I feel passionately to also just thank you. I think that you build what you love, with love, and it turns out that that thing becomes loved. And I don't think it's a bad thing to use that word, because we talk about philosophy, and that's where philo comes from. So thank you for that. I feel it from this whole group, and I've learned a lot. Thank you.
And by the way, when William Charnock gave me that reading, he told me the ultimate card was love, So I love you, man. And I'll see you in the after show.
Cool.
And then there were two. Just speaking about love, I mentioned a quote today in my newsletter. Work is love made visible. It's from Khalil Gibran, from his Prophet book. It was quite something. And, I'm honored to be here. And I've learned a lot from all these other people. I could go on like Joe and talk on my own for a long, long time, but I feel like shutting up every once in a while and actually listening and asking the right questions to get answered brings out a lot more knowledge, not only from other people, but in myself as well. So thanks for the opportunity, Joe.
You're very welcome. And I'm very grateful that Corona TV has brought us together and close again, which has been also a real gem. All right. Well, there's nothing left for me to say other than to tell my guests what they've been wanting to hear for all this time. And you know exactly what's coming.
You are Chuck Norris approved.
Thank you for watching Corona TV with your host, multiple author, and global keynote speaker, Joseph Jaffe. Corona TV is the show about hope, positivity, optimism, and if there's time left over, a little bit of marketing. The after show on Zoom starts right now at bit.ly/Corona TV After Show. If you like the show, tell a friend or two. Please subscribe to the show at coronatv.show. And if you want to get inside news, previews of upcoming guests, and much more, text Corona TV to 66866 or visit josephjaffe.com/subscribe to sign up for the show's newsletter.
And despite the best ministrations of your wife, you still look ugly.
Yes, there's an after show. bit.ly/ come on, don't you know this already? bit.ly/Corona TV after show. Everybody sitting here in the background, come on over to the after show. Bye, everybody. Have a great weekend. See you on Monday.